Seth Rogen, James Franco, and all their buddies re-traumatized Pamela Anderson knowingly, and they didn't care. This is part 2 of how I will never forgive Seth Rogen or any of those guys he's friends with for making this piece of trash, Pam and Tommy. Main issue I have with it is that they literally exploited her all over again by making this. So I don't have to repeat myself. Please go watch part 1 about how they turned this really sad, adorkable loser into the hero or the anti-hero, whatever you want to call it, that we root for. Despite the fact that this one person is responsible for derailing Pamela Anderson's career and schmegely exploiting her and even assaulting her basically by putting tapes without her consent out into the world so that everyone could watch her. This was the first major case of revenge porn that ruined her life, traumatized her, and then him and his buddy James Franco, yeah, the Predator, and and James Franco's brother and all their buddies were like, let's make this into an 8-part series. The fact that it was 8 episodes long is so arrogant. There was so much crap in there. I was like, why is this so long? You could have told this story in 2 hours if you should have ever told it to begin with, which you should not, because this was the bad guy, Tommy. This was the good guy who just had to do a bad thing because he, had been so exploited in his life and was abused by his dad and peed his pants because of the abuse. So, his rage, he has righteous rage. It makes sense what he did, right? This is what happens when rich white men write all the stories. They always have a siding with the wrong people, unless they've done a lot of work on themselves and ask a lot of women who don't center men, how should we tell this story? And the first person they could have asked was the victim, and they didn't. They knew she did not want this made, and they made it anyway. I highly suggest this piece right here. Pamela was financially ruined because of those tapes. Her career was derailed. Her son talks about it in her version of the story, which is the only one that we should be listening to. Tommy was fine. And back to this comment, they literally have a scene in the show of Tommy talking to his nurse, and they have a full-on conversation. They use a prosthetic. I remember watching that being like, why is this in here? This is so dumb. It makes no sense. Why is this in here? And it's because it was in Tommy's book. So again, not only did they not center Pamela, they centered Tommy, the man who abused her. So she had to get a restraining order against him. And the other man that abused her, who stole the tapes and put it out into the world so that millions of people watched her without her consent, having schmegs with her husband. And that's in addition to already being graped as a teenager and, essayed as a child and growing up in a violent house. This woman had so much violence in her story already. This is the last thing that people should have done to her. But Seth Rogen, James Franco thought it was just such a great idea. It's a story that needed to be told. So this is another amazing article I read. It pointed out the same things that I noticed when I watched it, but it kind of went into even more depth as to why this is so problematic. Empathy tourism. I love that word. The biggest problem, other than what I've already talked about framing it, starting off with, he can't pay his bills. Tommy stole his tool. Oh no, his hand hurts because he punched it through a wall. Oh, his wife left him because he's a loser. Oh, he can't get laid because he's a loser. Basically the dude's an inchmel. More or less. But what the biggest problem is that he's a man consumed by regret and obsessed with apologizing to Anderson. And that part is not true. The real man does not regret what he did and had no desire to apologize to Pamela. In fact, he loves being known as the man responsible for stealing that tape and putting it out into the world. And he never got any consequences. Jail, nothing. But the whole series, we're supposed to side with him and want him to win by exploiting Pamela Anderson. The way this writer puts it, it's complete fantasy, and it's a pat on the head for viewers new to this story who don't know anything about the real life dude and his real life lack of remorse. And then all this is made worse by Rogen's sad sack performance. He talks about all the things I mentioned in the last video. Him just being a hardworking man, drowning in bills. He's constantly hovering, stammering, and apologizing. He's just such a weird, awkward guy. He's got a hurt hand from punching it through a wall. He has to work off because he can't get a girl. Poor guy. And then they mention the whole pissing his pants as a kid because he was abused. So, you understand where his pain comes from. Through Rogen's woebegone effect, Pam and Tommy argues that his embarrassment and mistreatment are justification enough for his decisions to sneak back into the couple's house and do all that crap. His pitifulness is his most defining quality. Yep. He's a moron, has a heart of gold. And also this stuff with his ex, they even throw her into it to make him look like his loyalty to and affection for her are as a virtue, another element of him walking a righteous path. The justification basically that they gave him, another one for doing that to Pamela, is that, he owes his ex-wife money for all this stuff. So he's doing this to one woman because it's to help another woman that he cares about. He's taken advantage by nearly everyone. Some of that's made up. And while they're humiliating women, exploiting them, why not throw some racism in there too? Like his primary antagonist is a Latino man in a parking lot at Tower Records. Like, beating up other people is devouring my soul. As if you had such a good heart and then Tommy pushed you into doing this. And this is all forces outside of his control, y'all. All these things that are happening to him are because they're just happening to him, not because of a very intentional decision that he made to exploit a woman and sell her tapes. And this is the point right here. And it's the same treatment it gives Anderson. And the way this series has them as victims mirror each other over and over. Her struggle and his struggle are given equal weight. And both of them are presented as victims. But him even more so. One point even says, after just taking it and taking it and taking it my whole life, I just couldn't take it anymore. Aw, I get it. We've all done what you did to Pamela. You're forgiven, bro. So they create a whole scene that never happened in real life. Him trying to apologize to Pamela. Oh, but he almost gets run over. So even when he's trying to do a good thing, things still don't go his way. And they have Erica describe him as a good person who's done some really stupid things. Gets wrongfully punched down. And this is the most important part. In the Rolling Stone article, the dude in real life, he not only takes ownership for stealing the video, he likes the fact that he contributed this small token to the world. And he's always enjoyed watching the tape itself. And they even make him a victim when talking about that. This author says, at the end they add, occasionally he'll tell someone he was the guy who stole the Pam and Tommy sex tape. And almost no one believes him. Really? After all that, and you don't even get credit for being the guy who ruined Pamela's life and is basically a predator with zero remorse. He's just this guy with the hard worker who hurts his hand. That's who that is, just like Seth Rogen. I'd argue this is really Seth Rogen. This is what nice guys really are. And if you don't believe me, his son was so mad about this in Pamela's Netflix documentary, making a semi-comedy out of the worst part of her life. And they show in the documentary, she didn't sleep at all when she found out the show was being made. She says herself, nobody really knows what we were going through at that time. They should have had to have my permission. Oh, and her ex, he's cool, bro. Dope. That's so cool. She still doesn't know who stole the tape. It's debatable because it could be multiple people. That safe was very heavy. But guess what? She doesn't want to know. She doesn't want to think about it anymore. She definitely doesn't want men, especially ones who've been accused of SA, especially SA of teenagers like Franco, writing this story about her SA by the world who watched it. Why would I want to go through that again? His son even calls her at one point. He's watched the first 3 episodes and he's so mad. He was like, they try to give him reasons for stealing it, saying, that dad wasn't and didn't pay him. And of course, I feel like Pamela has a really hard time sitting with any of the awful things that have happened to her. And she just focuses on how everyone else is hurt. Which is probably how she keeps ending up in marriages with really awful men. Because men prey on that. They exploit the kindness and empathy of women, especially our trauma. She's like, I'm so sorry you guys have to go through that. People are going to think, oh, poor Pamela. No, it's poor you, poor Dylan. Poor dad and, grandma and grandpa. I think one of the things that's gotten her through her life so far is to at least do damage control for the people she loves the most, despite whatever happens to her. I blocked that out of my life in order to survive. And now because of this show, we watch it come up for her again and she feels sick. This was a really hard scene to watch. Anyone who's been through serious PTSD, because she's having to relive being raped by the world all over again. Pamela didn't make a dime from that Hulu series. She didn't make a dime from those tapes that ruined her life. She was financially destroyed by them because her career was derailed. But let's feel sad for the nice guy. Part 3 is about this amazing person.